Marie, Drew's mom.
I'm Chad. We have 3 wonderful boys, Drew being the middle one. Last February, life changed for all of us, and with Drew. We had noticed some things over the past probably year, now that we look back, but I've worked with the boys on a lot of sports and action sports, I would say, BMX racing, downhill skiing, and so in teaching him from the beginning on how to do these things, I started noticing some differences in his balance and coordination ongoing last fall and into the winter. Like, he still was good at things, but things just kind of were different than what I remember and where I thought he should be with things. So we started asking questions of our regular doctor, and kind of didn't get really anywhere with that at first. It kind of was one of these things where he's a growing boy, he's a little bit bigger for his age.
We did go down the avenues of, because we thought we weren't sure if he had asthma or allergies. So we kind of went down those roads and had him tested for some of those things because he would get winded. And then we also had this last summer, he had his tonsils and adenoids out. So that was probably around the time where all the pieces started to fall together, which we didn't know at the time. But it was kind of one thing after another.
Yeah.
So we were asking questions, but we didn't really know what to ask, actually.
Yeah, looking back on things now, it all makes sense, and it came together once we figured out what was going on. But basically the 2 things, one was this coordination and balance that we were noticing. The other one was, after this tonsil and adenoid surgery, his voice never came back, and we had went in a few times for that, and they kind of explained that as it needs more time to heal. Things look good in there, but it just never got where he was comfortable. His voice wouldn't project. He was real quiet and raspy, and that piece too was another piece that led us to continue asking questions.
So this fall is when we started to kind of do some speech therapy, and we thought maybe that would help. And then really it came down to 2 speech therapists telling me that it had to have been something physical. There wasn't anything with his speech. It was nothing that they could help. So then one speech therapist asked me if we'd ever had his vocal cords scoped to see if they were working. And I was like, no, why would we do that? Well, now we know that his left vocal cord was paralyzed at the time, and we didn't know that. So it was kind of like one thing starting after another. He, in the fall, had a physical, and he had said that his hearing in his left ear seemed different, but he would pass all of his hearing tests. And so I'm like, what do you mean by different? It's kind of hard to explain. And then he had hearing tests at school as well, and he passed that. So he was on the verge of normal for a 7-year-old, so there wasn't really anything that was typical of what this was. So then I said, okay, we have to go ask a question. Like, we didn't even know what to ask. So I finally made an appointment, and we went, and we just said his balance, like, there's something weird with this. We just felt like his balance should be better as he's growing into himself. So then we were referred to a pediatric neuro doctor from Children's who comes to St. Cloud. And I think there were some things that we told them. So if Drew was carrying his plate, his left hand was real shaky, and that really started to happen this winter. He couldn't really carry a plate that much. So anyways, with the evaluation from that doctor, he saw consistency in Drew's left side of it not being caught up with his right side. So from there, he ordered the MRI, not thinking he wasn't looking for what we ended up with. He was looking for something else. And so
he actually talked about looking for maybe signs of a slight stroke when he was in the womb or at a younger age, or from a fall or something. Something that would just tell us what was going on, not necessarily that you could fix. In Drew's mind, he was Drew. Like, he didn't have any, there was nothing wrong with him.
No, he wasn't hurt, nothing hurt.
Nothing hurt,
No.
nothing bothered him, nothing. It was just things that we, like with the BMX racing that our boys do, the progress he was making and actually winning races at his age. And then last year started going the other way, where like these guys, when they start, they balance at a gate. They just sit on their bike and sit there, you know, and he couldn't even come close to doing that anymore. And before it was not a problem, you know, so that was one thing that it was an indicator to me. And then downhill skiing, he still was, we had skied actually the week before we got diagnosed, and as a family, and
He's a great skier.
it was great. He's one of the better ones of our boys, you know,
I mean, you just never would have thought.
and nobody would have said there was anything wrong, except that I just from working on him since he was little, I could just tell something was off with one half of him basically. And so we had this MRI ordered for, it was actually President's Day, because there was no school that day. So we had gone skiing the week before, and we were going to go do this MRI, and kind of his treat for after doing this, we were going to go snowmobiling for the day. And I took him, and they said, we'll call you in 3-4 days once we read it. And we got home, and it was probably, we were just getting our stuff together to go out and play in the snow, and all of a sudden a pickup drove in the driveway, and it ended up being our pediatrician, our family's doctor, drove here to tell us in person that he found a mass on Drew's brain, and it wasn't a small one. And it was not an easy pill to swallow, and he didn't even know how to say, because he said it's just not what we were looking for. Nothing pointed to this, and he said, I just never in a million years would I have thought this, and I just wanted to tell you right away so we can act on it now. And it was like
we packed our bags.
We packed bags and
we left.
went
Probably within a half hour.
Went to Children's Minneapolis. He called down from here for us, and they were waiting for us, checked us in, and Grandma and Grandpa lived down there, so they came and got the other boys, luckily.
So that pretty much started the 5-week stay that we had. For us, it means being part of, helping spread the message and help bring families together that need the support. So sometimes you just want to learn from others and hear other stories and be a part of it. So
yeah, that the kind of the common ground, so to speak, I guess, of a group like this, and also the support that you have in the indie tribe, internally, and also it gets out the reach of it. I mean, there's so many people out there that want to help, in ways that a lot of times you don't know how, and I think it really seems like a nice way for people to get something they can wear proudly, and also help the families that need help. There's a lot of just the road that we're on, the path we're on, with a year worth of treatments and things that are still to come. The emotional and financial support of a lot of different avenues are so great, and we're so grateful for that.